everyone, my name is Katie Burch. I am a teacher in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. I'm just going to share my slides with you and I'll talk a little bit about myself for like 30 seconds. And then we'll get started on Google Classroom. Let me just pull up the right screen here. I have given everyone access to my slides. So if you would like to have a copy of the slides, you can just, you can grab this, whoops, you can grab this link here. I'll pop it in the chat there for you. Maybe Mally can do that. Let me see. I'll pop the link in the chat for you. And that's a link to my slides, and that will give you your very own copy for reference. I kind of use the slides to plan, but I sometimes divert from my slides just with questions and stuff. When I'm sharing my screen, Mally, I actually don't have access to the chat. So just so you know, I don't see when questions come through. So.
And I will be diligent in watching the chat.
All right, awesome. Okay, so my email is also listed in my slides at the bottom, katie@takingitglobal.org. I'm happy to answer any questions you have after the session is over. Sometimes during PD, you're like, yeah, I got it. And then you go to actually figure it out yourself at home and you forget. So feel free to email me if you have any burning questions. If you need access to this link again, I've popped it in the chat there. You can take a copy of these slides yourself. Okay, just a little bit about me. So first and foremost, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for about 15 years. I've worked for public school boards and federal school boards, but my heart is definitely in the classroom. This is a picture of one of my classes in Sioux Lookout. It was Movember, so we all put mustaches on. It was pretty fun. I live in a small town called Sioux Lookout, Ontario. It's beautiful here, but very remote, about 5,000 people. I know we have lots of remote teachers in this session, which is really nice to see. I've had many roles as a teacher. I've also been an instructional technology coach. My current role, I work for an organization called Connected North, where we bring connections and virtual experiences to students all over northern places. And just on a side note, I am a Google certified trainer as well. So, and I have used Google for many years. I'm not like the absolute expert, but I certainly am happy to share the knowledge that I have with you today. So, couple of things before we start. I really like it if you can play along with me, like join and try things out. So if you are able to, you could join with your phone or your iPad and listen in and then try what we're doing on the computer, or you can still just stay on your computer and kind of just shrink things and listen to me, and I'm happy to have you play along. Or try things out. I don't really want people to have to sit and listen the entire time. Okay, so these are things that we're basically covering today. The more advanced session, like I said earlier, is going to be on Thursday. So we're going to talk about what is Google Classroom, why use it, why not just email assignments, how to get started. We're going to go through the class stream. We're going to go through inviting students and parents to the Google Classroom. We're going to create assignments, and I'll kind of tell you why creating assignments in Classroom is really good for keeping yourself organized. And if we have time, which we may or may not have, we'll try. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks and kind of hacks that I use with Google Classroom today. Okay, so I want to make sure that I answer any of the burning questions that you have. So I'm hoping Mally can pop this link in, but I can actually just stop sharing. I'm going to pop a link to Padlet in, and I'd like you to go in there and just, I'm going to give you 2 to 3 minutes to go and tell me, what are you hoping to get from this session? Do you have any specific questions? If you could also include the grade level you teach, that will sort of help me as well. And I will open up Padlet here as well, so we can take a look and see what people's responses are looking like. So tell me what grade you teach. The way you do it is you click the little plus down in the bottom right here, what grade you teach, what you're hoping to get out of the session, if you have any burning questions. So we'll just we'll take 2 minutes for you to answer, throw questions in there. And I'm gonna have a couple sips of my coffee while you do that. You'll notice that as you're filling in questions on Padlet, Padlet is a really great tool for getting feedback from your students in a virtual way. So you'll see throughout my slides, I'm sharing other tools that I would use to help my distance learning classroom.
So Rose, I see that your colleague is having difficulty getting in the class. Maybe she can just exit out of what program she's using, or try another browser and go back to that website. So if she's using Google Chrome, maybe she can go to Explorer or something, or something else. Because if she goes to connectednorth.org at home, it should take her right into this session when she clicks on that link.
I will actually pop the link right into the chat there for you too, Rose, and you can share that with her. Okay, let's see. Okay, attaching documents, friendly and interesting. Yeah, so if you're looking, Nicole, to do, kind of customize your Google Classroom, I recommend sitting in as well on Thursday sessions. I'm going to show you some pretty awesome tools that will make it interactive and fun for the kids, especially personalize it for your class. I agree. Yep. You don't want to confuse parents. I'm going to show you how to stop notifying parents as well. Every time you post something, that can be really confusing. Grade 6, literacy, basic skills for adults. Awesome. Is that Kim Diamond joining my session? Okay, awesome. So Allison, we're going to go over the grading tools on Thursday, but we're definitely going to insert assignments and YouTube videos today. Mind Center, we got a Mind Center, Mally. Okay, so as we go along, you are welcome to keep adding to that Padlet session, or Padlet. I'll just keep it up beside me on the left here. Inserting and completing tests. Yep. Oh, Kim Redford. You, Kim Redford, and Kim Diamond pretty much have the same job. Okay, so you can go ahead and keep adding to that. I'm gonna just move on so we don't run out of time here today. Mally, can you still see my Google slides? Okay, I'm just gonna make sure that you guys are, oh yeah, you can see what I'm seeing. Okay, so your G Suite account, we're gonna talk about that first. So most of you, if you're in teachers, which I'm assuming you are, and you're at this session, I'm assuming that you have a board Google account, where all your students and your teachers have access to the same email. And that's what we call a G Suite account. Okay, so it's always best to use your board G Suite account when using Google Classroom for a couple of reasons. First, you'll be able to find your students easily, but also students who are using a board G Suite account can actually share outside of that account, which maintains security and privacy for your students, okay? So I do want to mention here too, I have had a couple of parents and students reach out to me because sometimes when you're logged in to more than one Google account in your browser, Google Classroom can get a bit confused. So just if you're having trouble getting into Google Classroom or finding, your parents are having trouble finding the join requests from your Google Classroom, just tell them to make sure they've signed out of all their own personal Google accounts and have the students sign in with just their accounts. Sometimes if you've been using Google a while, you'll notice that Google gets a bit confused sometimes between accounts, and you'll end up with the wrong Google Drive or the wrong classroom showing. So the fix for that is log out of everything and only log in as one sign in your browser. Okay? So how do we get started? So the first thing that you're gonna do, and I think I have a demo student started, so I'm gonna pull up the demo student, and you're gonna go to classroom.google.com. What that will do is it will take you to a page that looks like this. If this is the first time you're logging into Google Classroom and you've never used it before, awesome. If you've already logged in once, just, you know, keep writing in the Padlet or something. So you're going to click go to Google Classroom, and this is the important part. So you're going to log in. Hoping I have the right student in here. Okay, I guess I don't. So normally what you will get is you will get a screen that looks like this. You'll come to a screen that looks like this green screen here, and it will have the name, your email listed, and you hit continue. This part here is the most important part. It's where you pick your role. Okay, I was making sure I'm not missing any questions here. Okay, so this is where you choose whether you're a student or a teacher. So don't beat yourself up if you hit the wrong one and you're a happy clicker, because I've done this before. So when your students log in, they're going to select student. When you log in, make sure you select that you're a teacher, because if you don't, you won't have access to start to create a class. You'll only get access to join a class. But don't panic if you accidentally clicked I'm a student. All you have to do is email the person in your board who's an IT technician and manages your Google account. Oh, hey, Desta. And then they will go ahead and fix your account for you. It will just take a couple minutes, but it just depends on how fast they get to it. So make sure you choose teacher and then click join class. Okay, once you have started, once you're logged into Google Classroom and you're a teacher, your screen will be blank. I have a few classes set up. To set up a classroom for the very first time, all you have to do is click the plus on the top right-hand side. I'll see if I can make this a bit bigger. There we go. So click that plus in the top right-hand side, and that's where you're going to create your Google Classroom. Okay, I'm going to tell you first why bother with Google Classroom. Why not just have your kids use Google Docs, Google Drive? So the nice thing about Google Classroom is as soon as you create a classroom, what that does is it makes a nice little folder in your Google Drive it's called Classroom. So what that does is it keeps everything neat and organized. If anyone here has used Google Drive or Google G Suite for a while, you might find that, you know, every time you create a document, they show up on your Google Drive, and if you don't stay organized, it, you know, gets disorganized really quickly. So Google Classroom hosts everything neatly into your Google Drive in a nice little folder. So in the classroom, you'll have every single one of the classes you've created. And within each class, it will also show all of the assignments you've created for your students. And it will also give you access to the assignments directly in your Google Drive. You don't have to go searching for them. So that's what I love about Google Classroom, is it takes the reliance on students sharing their work with you out of their hands, and you have access to all of their documents all of the time whenever you need it. You don't have to wait for a student to share it with you. I noticed Lisa says she doesn't have a G Suite account with her board. So that's something we can talk about later. It is possible to use Google Classroom without having a G Suite account, but it just looks a little different. Okay, everybody good? Everyone feeling okay about the pace? Give me like an okay, I'm good, you're going too fast, you're going too slow, I don't want to go too fast for you. How are we feeling? Good, good, good.
Good,
Okay.
good, good, perfect.
Good. Okay, I just don't want to go too fast. So,
Yeah.
okay,
And I've got a couple questions in the queue, just so that you know, Katie. So I've got a couple when it comes that time, I'll ask those questions.
Perfect. Okay. So to create a class, you're going to just click the plus, create class. Now, this is where you need to add, before you do this, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. So we're going to talk about pros and cons right now, because this comes up often. So if some teachers like to create one classroom for all subjects, and that's okay. That totally works. The reason to do that is to have one classroom is so maybe you want to run synchronous learning events, which means learning events that happen in real time. You want to have discussions in real time. Having one classroom for your entire class is also good for keeping things in one place, less confusion for students and parents, particularly in the lower grades. So if I was teaching kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, I would be more likely to have one single classroom for students to join, okay? For the older grades, I would say grade 4 and up, it depends on what you're using Google Classroom for, but the drawback to having a single classroom is every single subject and every single assessment is all in one spot and one folder in your Google Drive. And if you want to use the assessment part of Google Classroom, then I recommend you don't just do one classroom per class, you do one Google Classroom per subject. Because if you plan on using Google Classroom for assessment, it's really important, it's very helpful to have your subjects separated just for assessment purposes and documentation and tracking and feedback and that kind of stuff, okay? So, a classroom for each subject. Why would I have a class? I actually had a student say to me that he was laughing because his teacher had created a Google Classroom for every subject, and the kids thought it was crazy because they had never seen that before, and that teacher didn't know what they were doing because they were so old school. Well, I suspect that teacher had actually done her research, and it was a grade 8 class, and so she separated each subject into a Google Classroom because the links and the content and the assignments may be very different between an English class and a science class or a math class. So personally, I was teaching grade 3 and I used a Google Classroom for literacy, a Google Classroom for math, and I also had a Google Classroom for learning links for those students that maybe were finished work early. They could go to a site where they would be doing productive games that would hit curriculum expectations. So I know this is a totally different scenario where a lot of you are like just getting thrown into using Google Classroom when you weren't expecting it. So if you are just starting out, it is absolutely fine if you're teaching grade 7 or 8 and you just want one Google Classroom to get your head around this platform and then worry about it later. Yet you can edit a classroom folder definitely when you see those folders. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So another reason is it keeps you a little more organized in your Google Drive account. So you can, you know, every time you'll have a specific folder for English, and then in the English folder will be all your students' English assignments. Whereas if it was one classroom, it would be everything all together. Okay. The drawback for this is more classrooms for students to join and move through. And I've been telling teachers, if you just need those kids online and you just need them to do some work because we're in a different kind of time in teaching at the moment, then that's fine. Set up one classroom, and then as the kids get more comfortable, which I think you'll find they're actually pretty comfortable. Kids are pretty quick at learning these new platforms, and quite often in schools, many teachers are using this Google Classroom anyway. So if you haven't, there's very likely a teacher in your school that's already been doing Google Classroom with your students. But priority is get them online, get them in a classroom, so then you can direct them elsewhere if you need to. Okay, let's keep moving. Okay, so let's go set up your Google Classroom. So you're gonna click Create Class, and then you're gonna come to a page that looks like this. So I'll give you a minute to get there. So I'll answer Julie's question because that's actually a good one. If you have 3 grades in one class, but only 12 students, I would, depending on the grade, what grade is it, Julie? 1 to 3? Okay, what I would do for that grade level is I would create one Google Classroom. And then I'm going to show you a little bit later how to differentiate, how to send specific assignments to specific groups of students. So even with one classroom, you can differentiate by grade level within that classroom. So for your grade 1 to 3, I would just do one Google Classroom for now. Okay, so we put the class name in, and we're going to call it Katie's training class. Feel free to follow along with me. What I love about Google is it's live. So it's not like once it's created, it's there forever. You can archive and delete the classrooms and get rid of them after the fact. So if you're following along with me, don't panic if you're setting something up that you're not actually going to use. You can delete it later. Okay, I don't ever worry about section. If you're a high school teacher, you would put your section in. Maybe you teach in the A schedule of your school. Subject, if you're going to separate by subjects, or maybe you're going to do all subjects, or you might even put in here your teacher's name. Room number, I would bother with that if I was teaching in a school, but nobody is right now. But you can also just put your name in there. You don't have to fill in any of this information. If all you want to put is Mrs. Burch's classroom, that's totally fine too. And hit create. It takes a minute to get that going. I guess my internet, I'm going to plug in my Ethernet. Maybe that's why my internet's slow. Okay, so it will take you to the very first page of your Google Classroom. I'll give you about 1 minute. I don't want to go too fast. Hopefully everyone's following along with me. The first page you come to is the classroom stream, okay? Google Classroom used to be different. So if you've used it for a while, you used to create your assignments in your stream. Now it's different. The stream is basically for sharing announcements and responding to student posts, okay? So this is where you would set your assignments for the day. For example, you would, maybe you want to leave a message for your students. Good morning, this is what we're working on today. Whatever announcements you want can go in the stream part. Also in the stream, I'm going to talk about different ways that students can join your classroom, but in the stream page, you're also going to see this little box on the left-hand side. And this is where it shows the code for joining. So if your students are older and they've already used Google Classroom and you want them just to join your classroom without you having to invite them all individually, you would share this code with them, and then they would, back on the first page, I'm just gonna go back, where you clicked to create the class, the students would choose join class and they would put that code in. Does that make sense? Now you'll notice that I'm going back and forth between classes by these little line or bars, whatever you want to call them, up here on the left-hand side. So click on there and it will take you to all the classes you have open. Okay, so if you're in a class and you want to go back and to toggle to a different class, you're going to click those little bars and click on classes, and it will show all your classes. Okay, so let's go back into my training class. I'm going to do this one just because I already made it. Okay, so let's practice toggling a little bit. Back to classes, back to your training class. Okay, it's pretty easy. This is probably the most complicated part in classroom. People have trouble knowing how to get back and forth between classes. To delete a class, it's a little different because when you create a class, you are also creating folders in your Google Drive. So Google doesn't want you to delete everything in case you need to refer to those folders. To delete a class that you've created, the little dots on the right-hand side here, you click on there, and what you do is you archive the class. And when you archive the class, the classroom disappears. Okay, so that's how you get rid of a class. The reason why you archive it as opposed to deleting it is because there might be files in there in your Google Drive that you'll want to use later. So as long as it's archived, it disappears. You can go, so maybe you're teaching, maybe you're a high school teacher and you're teaching English and you stop teaching for the semester. You can archive the class. It won't be lost forever. Then you can go back to those little lines and it will show you all the archived classes, and you can bring that class back to life. Everybody good? We can keep moving. Cool. I'll keep moving. No comments. Okay, so back to our demo class. So you've got your class code. Another thing you can do in the stream is you can make the classroom your own. Google is super smart. Like the way that they've set up this and programmed this, if you set your classroom to English, you'll notice the background of your classroom is going to be kind of English looking. If you set it to science, it's going to kind of look like a science lab. So you don't even have to customize it to make it look like that type of class. But if you want to, you absolutely can choose a different theme. So if you don't like this theme that was auto selected for you, on the right hand side here, you can click select theme and choose a different theme. And Sigrid just asked, can you set up your Google class now and worry about it in September? Absolutely, you can. Yeah, I would just not invite your students until September. In saying that too, though, I know that I personally like to see what students are going to see before I send it to them. So I'm in a fortunate position where I've created some demo accounts, but it is absolutely fine for you to email your IT technician and ask him or her to create a demo account for you and give you the password so you're able to see what students see. Because sometimes it's hard to help students if you don't know the process. So send an email to your IT technician and ask them to create a demo account for you. It costs nothing. So what it costs is time and for them to get back to you, which doesn't always happen very quickly. So, okay, so there's lots of options here. And if you're a little OCD like I am at times, you can actually even upload your own photo and change your background yourself. I don't know if I have any pictures that I want to put in here. Let's see. So you can select, you can upload your own class theme and pop it in there, and it will, you know, maybe you want to put a picture of your students, or so because it's a sign-in only program, if you did put a picture of your students there, it's fine. No one else is going to have access to that classroom except for the students. It's not like it's public. That's what I love about G Suite, is everything is pretty secure. Like, because it's for education, the security settings are pretty high. And usually in most schools that I've seen, the IT department is very strict about who has access to student documents. So you don't have to worry too much, unless you're, you know, streaming live like I am today, about putting student pictures in your own Google Classroom. Okay. So one more thing I wanted to show you in the stream view, as well as creating an announcement, is anytime in G Suite, if you see a cog, okay, I always say waffles are your friend, but cogs are also your friend. So if you click the cog, it gives you a few different settings that you can change about your Google Classroom. So you can go in and change the name of your class at any time. I'm going to show you one more time how to get there. You're in your demo class. You're going to click on that cog right on the top right-hand side, and it takes you to edit your class details. You can even reset your class code. You can disable your class code if you don't want your students at the moment, Graham, I don't think you can delete a Google Classroom. I haven't been able to do it yet, but if you find the answer, let me know. Okay.
And Sacred wants, and just one thing, Sacred wants to know, I guess she's getting ready for September. Can you set Google Classrooms up months in advance?
Yeah, totally. In fact, I still have classrooms that I have set up from when I taught grade 3 about 5 years ago. It's fine to keep them open. Rose, you know how to delete a Google Classroom? Tell us. Oh, you have to archive it first and then you delete it? I haven't really deleted because I always worry that I'm going to lose it and never get it back. Okay, let's take a look. Archived classes. Oh my gosh, Rose, you are a rock star. Okay, so there's your answer, Graham. We're going to go to, see, this is why we have a whole bunch of teachers working together. So once it's archived, then go to the archived classes and hit delete. But you can't undo this action, Graham, so make sure you really want to. Hey, Rose, I'm impressed. Good job. Okay. So let's go back to that cog. Something to think about in here. So in the general section, okay, this is where you can customize your stream. So just like I said, waffles are your friend and cogs are your friend. So are drop-down menus. So anytime you see a drop-down menu, there's something, and a lot of people click through the drop-down menus, and that's where they run into some trouble in Google Classroom, because you need to make sure you understand what's posting and what's happening. So general, you've got your class code. It can be reset, no problem. And in the stream here, there's a few options. So students can post and comment. That's one option. So that means in your stream, on your stream page, students can author a post and they can comment on each other's posts. So depending on the age group, you might find that appropriate. You might find that not appropriate. I know in my son's grade 7 classroom, there's a lot of high behavior students in that. I shouldn't say this publicly, but anyway, there's in a classroom, I'm not going to refer to my son's class, in a classroom, there can be high behavior students who maybe necessarily can't handle authoring cone of silence, that's right, Melly, who maybe can't handle authoring a post right away. I'm not saying don't do it ever, I'm saying gauge your student base, okay? So if you want students to create posts and comment on posts, awesome. The next option is maybe students can only comment. So you author all posts, but they can comment on them. That works too. And then only teachers can post or comment. I'm saying don't select that last one because then you won't hear from your students. And we want to hear from our students because they're all at home right now. So I would recommend either students can post and comment or students can only comment. Don't put that only teachers can post or comment because it just won't work for what's happening now in education. Okay, next one is a trick. Now this is a little advanced. It's not advanced, but you know what I mean. I'm going to show you because this annoys me and I'm going to fix it for you. So when we get to the classwork section, every time you post an assignment, what it does is it creates a notification on your stream page, which I personally find a little bit annoying. And this actually will help you, Sigrid, if you wanted to create all of your assignments for maybe your English class ready for September. You don't want those assignments all posted on your stream. So when the students log in, they see 100 assignments posted. This is probably where you're going to get feedback from parents freaking out because you're setting up all these assignments and they think they're due yesterday, which is not the case. So what I usually do is turn off that notification. So again, drop down, whoops, wrong drop down, classwork on the stream. So what I do is anytime I post to the classwork, I'm going to tell my students in the stream, go to classwork to do this assignment. So I usually just hide those notifications so my stream stays nice and clean and I don't get a whole bunch of notifications that are just going to confuse my students and parents. So that means the students are not going to get notified that you've posted 10 assignments. You can refer them to the assignment when you're ready for them to do it. So I personally prefer that, but you do what works for you. If you are only going to post one assignment at a time every week, then notifications are fine. But once we get into the classwork stream, you'll kind of see how to organize yourself, and you might want to like set up all your assignments ahead of time. Cool. The last one is guardian summaries. So this is an example of a guardian summary where the parents get sent a weekly summary of the student work and activities that have happened in the class. So every week the parents get a summary, and I'll show you how to set that up in a little bit if you would like that to happen. Any questions so far? Am I going at an okay speed? Cool, cool. Nobody's freaking out?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions that probably would be good now. So Robert wanted to know, can students edit their assignments once they submit them? And can you create lessons in Google Meetings?
So I would say students can edit their assignments once they've submitted if you turn it back to them. Okay. Yeah, so you can, yes, Kim, create an assignment and set it on a schedule to post later. So yeah, so what was the other question, Melly?
The other question was, can you create lessons in Google Meetings?
That's a good question. What I would do if you're using Google Meetings to meet with your students is I would post the meeting as an announcement, and then I would refer them back to Classroom. The reason for that is you're going to see when we get into the classwork how awesome it is to be able to access your student work in real time for formative assessment and interactive instant feedback. Okay, we're almost done with the stream. How are we doing for time? Oof. Okay.
No, about 20 minutes.
Okay, we might have to do a part 2. Okay, so let's do a stream really quickly. So the stream is announcements, essentially. I try and keep the stream clear of announcements clear of anything but announcements, just so I don't confuse my students. So all you do to create an announcement, okay, so the person that asked about differentiating for different students, this is important for you or for anyone really. So what's cool about announcemements is if you have more than one classroom, you can put your announcement. So go ahead and create an announcement with me. Sometimes what I'll do with announcements is I'll post a discussion just for the kids to get thinking about what we're talking about today. So so sometimes I'll post post a video, or maybe you're just making a general announcement. So remember I said drop downs are your friend? If you click on the drop down, you'll see if you have more than one class in Google Classroom, you can actually post this to all 3 classrooms that I have available, or all 7, or however many you have. This same announcement will go to all the classrooms. So in this case, maybe it's Remembrance Day, and you just want kids to think about Remembrance Day, and you're posting a video or an announcement that you want to go to all the classrooms. So you can just check off which classrooms you want it to go to. Okay. Another thing you can do is see where it says all students and there's a drop down. This is where you can customize an announcement for a specific student. So for those teachers who are using RAS Kids or Mathletics, and you want to find an easy way to send the student their login information without them being able to access everyone else's login information, what you might do is you might uncheck all students, pick the student you're sending the password to, and you're going to say, hi, Mally, please spend 30 minutes a day on reading eggs. Here is your password. Oops, can't spell today. And login. Okay. Oops. Okay, and then when you post it, it is only going to post to that one student. So I actually had a teacher ask me about this like yesterday or the day before. She said, I don't want to keep inundating my parents with emails to help. I want the kids to learn to figure it out themselves. So this is where you might post. And then I would just copy this post. So I would post that to one student, and then I would create another one and I would post to a different student, and I would change the sign-in information. The nice thing is you see in your stream who you posted to, and you can always just copy and paste.
Katie, can you go back to where you find the announcements, please?
So where you find the announcements, right here. So when you're on this class stream, the very first page of your classroom, you just click in this little box that says share something with your class. Click on the box, and there you go. Does that answer your question?
Yep, she said awesome, thanks.
Okay, so, okay, again, love Google Classroom for this reason. So you're like, oh my gosh, I just sent demo student 2. I just sent this student the wrong password. What am I gonna do? Now they're gonna be confused. Well, guess what? It's live, so you can fix it. Anytime you see dots, that's where you edit. So the reason, so I just had a question that your classroom only has all students as an option. Have you invited any students to your classroom yet? Because if you don't have any students in your classroom that have accepted your invitation yet, you won't be able to select just one student. You have to wait till they're in your classroom, and then you can select specific students to send messages to. Okay, so the little dots here, you can click on the dots and hit edit, And then you can fix the password.
So Sigrid wants to know, can we enter our students or is it easier via COD?
The code. We're going to talk about that next, Sigrid.
Okay.
I personally think, I'll answer it now. Okay, so if you're inviting students with the code, I would recommend no younger than grade 4. The code is very confusing. You know, like it's lowercase l, 5, lowercase m, and it is case sensitive. So if you don't want to get 100 emails from kids or parents saying my student can't log in, then I would just invite them to join because it's easier. And I'll show you in a second why it's very, very easy. Okay. But you see how that, so we'll back at the stream, see how I updated that password? So what's going to happen for your student is I've updated that announcement. So it's going to notify the student, please refresh your page. Your teacher made an edit. And so then the student will refresh the page and then the correct announcement will show. So it's live, it's in real time. So if you make a mistake, don't panic. That's what I love about Google Classroom. And that's what I love about Google in general. If you make a mistake, you can quickly go fix it and no one will know you even made the mistake. Okay, that's announcements. I'm gonna show you one more thing about announcements. Do you see this little, let's go into the announcement that you created. Do you see where it says add and there's a little paper clip? This is where you can add a file from your Google Drive. You can add a link to a learning game if you want to. You can add a file that students can download. You can even add a YouTube video based around a topic. So for example, I'm teaching my students about reading eggs. I want to give them a little tutorial about reading eggs on YouTube. So you're going to, again, Google's awesome. You're going to go to YouTube. You can even search for reading eggs for the video you're looking for. Look at that, reading eggs overview. I highly recommend watching these videos before you send them out to students. I did make a mistake one time with a Lego video, and I think the child is now grade 11 and still remembers it because there was a screaming devil face that came on. So that was not a good day for poor Erica. But so watch the videos before you post them. It's just good practice, okay? Anyway, we're gonna pretend I did, hit save. And what it does is it puts that video right with the password you sent so the kids can then open it up and watch a video of how to use the program. Yeah, you're exactly right, Allison. So if you're choosing specific students, you see everything you've posted on your stream, but the students will only see what I've posted to their stream. And I'm going to show you because I actually did that for my students here. So I'm going to go to demo student. There they are there. And you see how I just posted to that one student, even though both those students are in my classroom, they only see the one post that I posted directly to them. It's pretty cool. Okay, now we need to move beyond. Oops, let me go into the right program. Okay. So we're going to move from the stream now. So you know how to create an announcement. You know how to modify everything that you need to modify. Now we're going to go, how do we invite my students? Okay, if you click, so we're going to come back to classwork. We might have to do that tomorrow because we might be running out of time. But see where it says people here? The people tab is where you invite your students. Oh, can you schedule an announcement? That's a good question. I never really have scheduled an announcement. Let's go take a look. It doesn't look like you can schedule an announcement. I would suggest use announcements for like things you want the students to immediately know because the announcements show up as most recent at the top. In saying that though, if you want an announcement to go back to the top because you keep hearing from Mally who can't remember her password, you can actually click those dots and move that announcement back to the top for her. Yeah, Mally always forgets her passwords. Okay, so let's go to people. You can schedule an assignment for sure, but I don't think you can schedule an announcement. So let's go to people. You'll see that I've invited students. Okay, you can also invite teachers. This is so cool because there's very likely 2 grade 7 and 8 teachers in your school, or 2 grade 8 teachers. Maybe you want to share the workload. Maybe someone's really great at literacy and you want that person to do the Google Classroom on literacy, but you want to invite that teacher to see what's happening. You can invite other teachers. And Google is really smart if you're in the same G Suite. So I can actually search for another teacher very easily. So here's a teacher that is in my domain, in my G Suite domain. And I can find her and invite her as a teacher. Okay, so that's possible, but let's look at students. To invite your students, Google is really smart. All you really need is your class list. So if I have a student whose last name is Mikas, it will show all the potential Mikases that are in my school board. So if I'm looking for a specific student, maybe I'm looking for Ava, and you want to search by first name, it will find them for you. As long as you're part of the same G Suite domain, you can find the students very easily to invite them. What that will do is it will send the students an email and a notification that you've invited them to a classroom, okay? Once you've invited them, then at that point, I would find a way to contact them, and I would say, okay, get on classroom.google.com and log in with your G Suite account, and let's get you going. So once the students have accepted your invitation, do you see how some are gray and some are dark colored? So Sylvie, I'm not sure about if they're not from the same G Suite domain, because I know if you're part of a G Suite domain, you can only invite people in that are part of that domain unless you're a partner. So in where I live, there's an organization called Kiwetinakogi Makanak, and there's an organization called Northern Anishinaabe Education Council. So each of the IT administrators have allowed the students to join each other's classrooms from those organizations because they go to the same school. It's called whitelisting. So if you have a case where you have students from multiple schools, you need to ask your IT administrator to whitelist that school board. Okay, so where did this, Trevor asked a good question. That's a good one. So once you've invited your students, I'm going to show you. Once you've invited your students, because we're in kind of different times now, you need to find a way to reach out to them to get them online so they can join your classroom, whether it's a phone call or an email to a parent, or a Facebook notification, depending on where you live. So I'll show you what happens. What I would do is I would go to, you see that demonstration student 2 hasn't joined. So I'm gonna go and go in as that student. So I'm gonna pretend that I'm demo student 2, and I'm gonna go in and I'm going to try to join my teacher's classroom. So what I would tell my students is I would say, okay, go to classroom.google.com. That's the easiest way. Or they can even go to Google in general, which most kids know how to go to Google, okay? And you can type in Google Classroom and it will take you to the same place, okay? And then I say, go to Classroom, and I have them log in, and you might have to help them over the phone with this. Okay, and so the student will log in.
What if the students aren't in the same G Suite domain?
So I kind of answered that you have to be whitelisted. So it's difficult, but not impossible. So if anyone is in that case, just send me an email and I'll help you walk through it. I don't want to spend too much time because not everybody's in that situation. So here's what will happen. Your students will log in, they'll continue. Remember I said they're either a student or a teacher, and in this case, they're a student. What happens if a student says they're a teacher? Doesn't really matter. The IT administrator will realize they're not a teacher and they'll move them as a student, but either way, it doesn't make a difference. A teacher can join a classroom like a student, and they can also create classrooms. So this guy is a student. And then once they log in, you see they have an invite. It says Mrs. McNear, which I use Sherry's because we made a demo account, has invited you, and all the student has to do is click join, and then they're in. Okay, so what you need to do is direct your students to Google Classroom, have them log in with their credentials, which is probably what you would send in an email when you sent it to the parents anyway. And then they would just go in and join. It's very simple. And you see how now my demo student 2 is now dark gray instead of light gray? That means they're in the classroom. So to answer that person's question about not seeing students in the stream, now you'll see I have 4 students or 3 students instead of 4 listed. Okay, so that's how you invite students. Again, if you go to the cog, you can always edit any of that stuff as well. Okay, cool. All right, do we have time, Mally, to go into classwork quickly, or should we take it up on Thursday?
It's up to you guys. We probably have 10 minutes as we've got the other session starting, and Moat's always early. So would you guys we'll do, I guess, a quick vote. Would you like to do 10 more minutes and do assignments, or hold that over until Thursday?
Okay, so if you are done and you are good to, you don't want any more knowledge today, please go ahead and sign off. For those who want to keep going, just stay on with me and I'll quickly show you how to create an assignment. This is where you can select dates and stuff. Okay, so here we are. So you'll see we have four sections in Google Classroom. Stream we covered, people we covered, grades we're covering on Thursday. Don't worry, I'm going to cover this again on Thursday, so don't panic if you missed it. So we're going to go to create for create an assignment. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give you guys, I prepared an assignment for you to add to your, because I wanted to show you, how to put an assignment in. So I made one for you. So I'm going to pop it in the chat. Okay, so you can go ahead and take a copy of that assignment and we're going to work on it together. So that will auto copy a Google slide for you. So you have an assignment to post for your students. Okay, so what we're going to do to create an assignment, there's a few things you can create. For today, we're going to create just an assignment. On Thursday, we're going to do quiz, question, and topics. But for today, we're just going to do the basics, make an assignment. So to create your first assignment, you go create assignment. Okay, so here's where you have some options. So you're going to give the title of your assignment. So today we're going to call it Properties of Matter. Okay. And it's really important that once you start preparing an assignment, it's better just to follow through and finish it rather than come back to it later, okay? Because it affects your ability to attach things. So for instructions, we're going to say please watch this really awesome video on properties of matter. I'll put whatever you want. You can put test in there. Frostology, it's called frostology. Okay, so in here, you're gonna put the instructions for your students. And with the younger kids, I usually create an assignment like I shared with you. And I usually put instructions in there as well, because kids need to have it at the front of their minds, what you're asking them to do. So I always put the instructions, I don't think I did in that one, but I usually put the instructions in the document as well. Especially with the little ones, I like to create templates for them. Sigrid, your classroom should be saved automatically. If you just go to classroom.google.com, your classroom will be there. Okay, so we're gonna, first, I want my students to watch the video. So I'm gonna add a YouTube video and I'm gonna search for the word frostology. Let's just pretend it's this one. It looks like Anna has one listed already. Oh, this is it here. That was probably us there, eh, Melly? Okay, we're gonna add that video. So please watch this video. It's called Frostology. Then you will need to do the assignment. Okay, we're just gonna do attach a black line master today, but tomorrow I'm gonna show you how, or Thursday, I'm gonna show you how to create an assignment this way. So you're gonna go add, and you're gonna add it from your Google Drive. You should have copied that assignment and it should be in your Google Drive, okay? So we're gonna add it from Google Drive and we're gonna go find that assignment that says states of matter. There it is there. Okay, this is the very, 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 very important part. So remember I said drop downs? You should just be able to put the links, just grab that link and put it in your browser and hit enter and it will force you to copy it. I'll show you. You just click this button, make a copy, and if you're logged into your Google Drive, it should save it for you. Awesome. Okay, so don't worry about it, just pretend that you did it and then go back, you'll be able to get a recording later. Okay, so this is the important part. This is where lots of people make mistakes and I still make mistakes for this one. So this is where your drop down here is very important. So you have three options. Students can view a file. So what you're saying, if you leave it on here, is all students can do is see that document. They can't do anything with it, they can just see it, okay? This next one is students can edit the file. This looks good, but it's not. If you put this, students can edit the file, you're sharing the same document with your entire class, and it's as if your entire class is writing on the same document. Unless you want that, like if you're doing a KWL chart, that might work, or you're collecting email addresses, but in this case, no. And I still make this mistake, so don't beat yourself up. But the problem with Google assignments is once you save this and assign it, you're gonna have to delete the entire assignment and start over if you click this one. Okay, the one you want is make a copy for each student. What that will do is give every single student their very own copy. It will also put their name on it and share it with you. So you don't even have to go looking for it. You can even go and see when your student was last in that document, which is very helpful. Okay, so let's go over to the drop downs here. So the person who was asking, I have grade 1, 2, and 3, what can I do? Well, you can set up an assignment for each grade separately. So you might modify the assignment. It puts their name, it depends. It puts their name at the beginning. So if their username on their G Suite account is Katie Burch, it will just put Katie, I think it puts their full name, Katie Burch. Usually the school board set it up with the student's first name and last name. I'll show you though, I'll show you. So it made a copy for each student. Then you can share it to all your classes. You can share it to just a couple of students or all of them, okay? Don't worry about points right now. We're gonna talk about grading later. This is where you set the due date, okay? So if you want students to have it handed in by next Wednesday, awesome. You can set it for next Wednesday, okay? And then you also have the ability to create a rubric earlier, but we're gonna do that Thursday. And then another drop down before you click assign. Do you see this little drop down? This is where you would schedule it or save it as a draft. So if you want to set up your whole high school English class, but you don't want to post all the assignments, save all the assignments as drafts and assign them when you're ready, or schedule them to post it on a certain day or time, okay? But for today, we're gonna assign it and I'm gonna show you what the student sees. So we're gonna click assign. And I'll show you what happens when the student goes into the assignment, Jennifer. Okay, we're gonna talk about topics later. Okay, so now we're gonna go in as my students, which I had set up for you. So let's go to Google Classroom. And I'm gonna show you what the student sees once you've sent that assignment in. And here we go. See, there's no notification, which is awesome. Go to classwork. Oh, there's my properties of matter assignment. So the student is gonna see, oh, Mrs. Burch said I need to watch this video and then I'm gonna do this assignment, okay? So when the student is ready, they're gonna click on it. And you see at the top, it says demonstration student 2. So it puts the name and it puts the title. And then the student has the instructions. They do the assignment, okay? And then as the teacher, if I go back to my teacher account, oops, wrong teacher account. You can shift the order of activities assigned. You can go in and change the dates on it. Okay, so I'm in as my teacher account and I'm like, oh, let me see if anyone's logged into, and look at this. It says I have 3 students, 3 of these assignments have been assigned. And I can actually go into each student's assignment and see how things are going. As long as the student has opened the assignment, I'm able to see what they've done and I can actually comment. I can put little comments in for them. I can help them out. We can have a little chat on the right-hand side down here. Yeah, so that's how you create an assignment in Google Classroom. And I think that leaves us out of time. We're gonna go into more detail on assignments on Thursday, but I think that kind of brings us to an end. Does anyone have any burning questions that must be answered before Thursday?
If we're putting student work into a weekly slideshow, how can we add links to an assignment? From AJ Stewart.
So that's a good question. So if you're putting student work into a weekly slideshow and you're sharing that slideshow with your students, what I would do is instead of putting links in, I would create those assignments in Google Classroom and refer them to Google Classroom to open the assignment there. The reason for that is that would let them start the assignment within Google Classroom so you have access to it. You can put a link like you can put a link to a Google Doc if you're not planning on using Classroom. So here's let me show you. This is kind of in a little more advanced, but if you wanted to force copy like I did, so maybe I want my students all to get their own copy. I don't want them to have mine. So you'll see, I'm going to share a link here. So you see the link I just shared. See how it says edit at the end of the link? If you change that word to copy, what it does is it turns it from a document they can edit to a document that it forces them to take their own copy. I'm just posting in the chat. So I'll share that really quickly with you just so you can see how I did it. So if I'm in my Google account and I click, I don't know, you can't see that. Oh, there we go. So see the link at the very top of my Google Doc? If I click on that, normally this document would say, the person can edit my document, but I don't want them to be able to edit. I want them to be able to take a copy of it, force copy. So instead of leaving that word edit, I would change that word to copy and share that link with my students. And what that will do is it will force them to make their own copy instead of using my copy. But that's kind of more advanced. I don't want to confuse you guys. Okay, I think that's all we have time for today. Please feel free to email me burning questions. I really like that comment from AJ that you're just trying to figure out the easiest way for families to access without overwhelming. Google Classroom is a good place to start. So don't panic if you haven't created assignments. I tell all teachers, start with your Google Classroom and send your kids a message. Like, you don't need to like be Einstein day one. Like, do one thing at a time. Don't try and do 5 things at once.
That's great advice. Thanks, Katie. So we'll see hopefully some of you on Thursday for the bumped up, what did you call it? Bumped up?
Up a notch, up a notch.
Notch Google Class. And then we'll also on next Tuesday and Thursday have some more tools that integrate and how to organize your class lists and communicate with parents. Do you need a new code for Thursday? So
yeah, it'll be on the website, right, Melly?
Yeah, it'll be on the website. And any of those sessions that you see for any of our other providers, please feel free to share with your classes. And yeah, just feel free to share with your classrooms and with your colleagues. They're really fun and the students have been enjoying them a lot. And there are also recordings that are going to be listed on YouTube that you can embed in your class.
I just put my email in there. Sorry, Sylvia, I put it in the wrong way last time. So this is my email if anyone wants to send questions.
So thanks.
I hope everybody got at least one thing new out of it. And if not, come to Thursdays.
Thanks, Katie. See you in a minute.
No worries.